everyone. I'm here with Neil from Ayers, Diocesan insurer, and we're sending out a guide to all the parishes about doing a bushfire risk management plan.
Yep.
So I thought I'd take this opportunity to have a chat to Neil and ask you a few questions. So Neil, why are we focusing on fires this summer?
Yeah, well, thanks, Richard. Obviously, this summer, all the weather predictions it's going to be a long, hot, dry summer, and that's based on the El Niño effect. And it's actually not just this summer, but it's actually probably going to last for at least 2 to 3 years, possibly 4 years. There's some predicting that we're sort of this time next year we may even be in drought. So, we're very conscious that the bushfire risk is really elevating now in terms of the risks that we face across, across our whole Australia network. And so we've put together a bit of a program to sort of address some of those things. Yeah.
But I understand, as well as taking action to prepare and protect our properties from being damaged in fires, there's also a bit of a strategic goal in our cost of insurance, and the steps we take now will actually inform the cost of our insurance going down the track. How does that work?
So when we consider a risk management program, in the long term, we know that if you can keep obviously the claims down, obviously reduce claims, the best way to get cheaper insurance is always to have less claims, right? That goes without saying. But also the way we present to insurers absolutely matters, because they put a risk loading into everybody's program, and that's why we work so hard on risk management, is to keep that loading down. So when it comes to the diocese,
So if we take steps this year, it lets you go back to the insurer next year and say the Diocese of Gippsland has taken all these steps to address its risks or mitigate their risks. And so you can demand and argue on our behalf to pay less.
In fact, we've already done that. You know what I mean? When we went to the insurer this year, we said, hey, we will be rolling this plan out. And they said, okay, fantastic. We'll hold some of that loading back to enable you to do that. That's why the cost has actually been held back quite well this year. Low claims. And also we've presented a strong risk management proposition. And the fact that we're ahead of this, we're able to identify the key locations where the bushfire risk is. And we're going about putting this plan in place over the next period of time. That's how you keep your insurance costs down.
So I understand for Gippsland, there's about 40 different properties being identified as being in a bushfire prone area. And what are the typical steps? I know it'll vary depending on the context of each property. What are the typical steps that people have to do to prepare their property for bushfire?
Okay. So we have a fairly simple approach. I think every local parish needs to basically get the key stakeholders together and meet and agree a plan together. That's sort of the first thing. Let's get together. Let's talk about this intentionally. Okay. And then put in place some things that are specific to your area. For example, if you are very close to a bushfire, a bush line, the way you treat your risk might be different to if you're in a wide area where the fire is possibly going to be a rushing fire across grass or something like that. So how you do it is a little bit different depending on where you are. But the key thing is, when we think about the basics, what does fire need? It needs oxygen, it needs heat and fuel, 3 elements. That's year 11, you know what I mean? Year 11 chemistry. But the biggest thing is fuel. That's really the thing that we can control. And so fuel in a local church context is usually around keeping any fuel loads around, particularly from our roof. We love our roofs at Ayers. We love keeping clean gutters, keeping all those twigs and the fuel off the roof, and then fuel sources from around the outside of the building. Keep your grass nice and low, as far back as you can. Any sort of trees, particularly dry or dead trees, try and get them cut down if they're really close or hanging over the top of the building. So those are kind of practical things that we like to see happen at a local church level.
All right. So we had a significant event, the East Gippsland fires were in 2019-20.
Yes.
And also extended it right up and down the eastern seaboard. Are there any examples that came from that where properties that had a good risk management plan were able to be protected, or observations that were made. I think you shared a story with me yesterday about down on the south coast of New South Wales, with
Yep.
Anglican school there.
Yeah,
What
so
was that experience?
yeah, so a great experience. And I think some of the understanding the mechanics of how bushfire works is really important. Most of us know that it's not the fire front that's going to hit your building. It'll be an ember attack. So fires, because the wind can pick embers up, and literally throw them kilometres. Now, so we had a school out in Brawley in New South Wales that was part of the fires from a couple of years ago. And it had the whole school site had an ember attack, and one building on site burnt to the ground. The other building had a ring of fire on the roof, and everything else was fine. So it was the same ember attack that basically covered the whole site. But the buildings had different results depending on the maintenance that had happened, right? Or the type of building. So the building that burnt down was a timber building. It had a timber deck. It had straw mats. It had, nice flammable goods. I think there was even some cushions or some bookshelf or something out the front. So when the embers hit it, up she went. The second building, which was, I think it was the year 12, it was like a quadrangle building. It actually had a tree sitting over the top of it. So it had some dry leaves in the gutters and twigs across. So when the embers hit that, it actually hit that and poured up. Now, fortunately, the building manager had come down at that time, and he was able to actually, I think he got a leaf blower and pushed all the fuel out of the gutters and was able to stop that fire before it grabbed and took hold and went in. So it was a great example of how maintenance actually really works.
So through the help of AIRS several years ago, we had the sponsorship, which enabled us to buy the gutter vacuum. So we do have that available for every parish within Gippsland, and I hear the messaging that they need to be cleaned before summer starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that core maintenance plan, clear your roofs and do the fuel loads around that, keep those grasses nice and low, do the fuel loads, look at your trees, look at the area. That's the very best thing. If we can do that before Christmas, fantastic.
Okay, so coming out to parishes will be the risk management guide and a template for you to work through.
Yep.
But also get in contact with the registry, and we'll coordinate to try and get the gutter cleaning out to all the parishes that need to use it, especially on the list of the 40 properties that have been identified.
Yep.
So thanks, Neil.
All right, great.
Good on you.
Thanks, Richard.